Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on what are projects in PRINCE2. Now, this is the first in a series of webinars that we're going to be doing, so thank you for joining for this very first one. So what are projects in PRINCE2, you may ask? Well, let us understand what a project really is and what it is simply, shall we? Now, organizations face balancing two competing needs most of the time. One of those is maintaining current business operations, which is also known as business as usual, such as maintaining profitability and service and quality, your customer relationships, your brand loyalty, productivity, and of course, marketing confidence. Also, improving or transforming business operations to survive and to compete in the future, which is also known as business change. For example, anticipating and deciding how change can be introduced to the greatest effect. Now, as the pace of change accelerates, whether it's technological, whether it's business, social, or regulatory, the need to adapt becomes more evident, and the focus of management attention is inevitably to achieve a balance between business as usual and business change. And when I say business change, that's where the project element comes in, because remember, project is how we introduce that change to the business. All right, so the question was, what is a project? Now, projects are simply a means by which we can introduce change. And although many of the skills required are the same, there are some crucial differences between managing business as usual and managing actual project work. Now, let's have a look at some of the key characteristics then of what a project really is. Now, change is one of those characteristics because projects are a means by which we introduce a change to business operations. And your business operations are your Monday to Friday and your January to December. And the project is that temporary organization. So that will bring me to the next characteristic, which is temporary. Projects are temporary in nature, which means that when the desired change has been implemented, business as usual will resume in its new form. And the need for the project is then removed. As projects are temporary, they should therefore have a defined start and, of course, a defined end. The next characteristics that you'll see over here on the slide is that projects are cross-functional. Now, what we mean by cross-functional is that a project involves a team of people with different skills working together on a temporary basis to introduce change that will impact others outside of that team. Now, the project and projects often work across the usual functional divisions within an organization and sometimes span across different organizations as well. Now, this frequently causes stresses and strains both within and between organizations, for example, between customers and suppliers. Now, each has a different perspective and motivation for getting involved in the project. So when you've got different people from different organizations, especially if you imagined a really big sort of construction project, you'd have different supplier organizations, people that perhaps provide electrical work and, have electricians that do that work, or plumbing work and plumbers that do that work. There's different people that may even work together for the first time on that project, having never worked together before, as people do in normal business operations, where you work with your colleagues during the week until you go home, and you do that throughout the year and throughout the years that follow. Now, another characteristic is that projects are unique. Now, every project is unique in its own right because an organization may undertake many similar projects to establish a familiar, proven pattern of project activity, but each one will differ in a certain way. This can mean a different team. It can mean different customers, different suppliers, different products, different locations, or different time frames. And all these factors combine to make every project unique. Now, the final characteristic that we're going to look at here today is uncertainty. Right. Now, these characteristics that I've already listed will introduce threats and opportunities over and above those that are typically encountered within business as usual. And projects are riskier than any sort of operational aspects of an organization. So they inherently carry more risk, because of that element of uncertainty. So now that we understand what a project is, we're going to be looking at another question. Now, I just want to say projects vary greatly. For example, an organization might undertake an IT project to improve the systems required to manage its business. Another organization might undertake clinical research projects to bring a new drug onto the market, and other organizations might be building a new facility perhaps. Furthermore, the environment within which the project is being managed may influence how it is started, how it's delivered, how it's assured, and how it's closed. Now, there may be factors external to the project itself, such as organizational standards and, of course, the maturity of the organization and the regulatory frameworks that may exist, and factors that are specific to the individual project, such as the industry sector in which it may fall, and, of course, the geographical locations as well. So you might then ask the next question, and the question that I was going to present to you, which was going to be, where does PRINCE2 fit into this? Okay. Now, PRINCE2 is designed to work for all types of projects in any project environment. And PRINCE2 is the most widely used method for managing projects in the world. It's a structured project management method that uses experience gained from thousands of different projects around the world, as well as contributions from countless project sponsors, project managers, project teams, academics, trainers, and of course, consultants. Now, PRINCE2 has been designed to be adaptable so that it can be applied to any project, regardless of the project's purpose or the scale of the project or the type of the project, the organization involved, the geography, or even the culture. So how does PRINCE2 do this? Well, it achieves this by firstly separating the management of the project from the specialist development activities, such as design or construction, allowing any specialized or specialist activities to be integrated into a controlled environment for the project. It's also achieved by focusing on what needs to be done to manage the project, rather than prescribing the work that is done and how that work is done. It also achieves this by requiring that the method is established specifically for the needs and the context of the project, and of course the way that it is then tailored and the way that it is also applied. Now, at its core, PRINCE2 is based on 5 integrated elements, and those 5 integrated elements are the PRINCE2 principles, people, PRINCE2 practices, PRINCE2 processes, and of course the project context. Now, in our series of webinars, we are going to be covering these integrated elements and various other elements of PRINCE2 as well. So do look out for the future webinars as well if you do want to go through some of that information and have a look at that. Now, the next thing that I'd like to talk about is another important area is that project managers and PRINCE2 project managers need to have a keen focus on is what we would call performance targets in a project. Now, what is a performance target, you may ask? Well, to define a performance target, the project's performance target sets the expected success level against which the management of the project will be judged. PRINCE2 includes performance targets for a few very important areas, being benefits, cost, time, quality, scope, sustainability, and risk. Right. Now, for this webinar, I'd like to have a look at these important targets for project performance. And I'm going to start out with the very first one, which is benefits. Okay. Now, those that are involved in the project need to be able to answer the question. And the question is, why are we doing this? And who are we doing this for? So the project management team must have a clear understanding of the purpose of the project and then needs to be achieved to actually justify its investment and then ultimately realize those benefits, right? But we've also got costs as well, all right? Now, we know that projects involve money, budgets, in order to build the product or the output of the project. There's going to be money involved. So as the project develops, there will be many factors that can affect the cost budget available or that may lead to potential underspends in the project or even overspends against the cost budget. So the project has to be affordable. And it's very important that we are also going to see a return on investment. There's no point running a project and investing a whole lot of money in something and you don't really get a return on investment. And that's something that we do want to avoid. That's why we have a performance target for cost. Now, time is also another performance target. Of course, projects having a start point and having an end point means that there are going to be timeframes involved as well. So when will the project actually start? And when will the key products be delivered? And when will the project actually finish? Now, talking about time and talking about, when the key products will be delivered, those key products are also going to have quality attributes. So quality is our next performance target. Now, finishing on time and finishing within budget is not much sort of consolation if the result of the project is not as specified, as it isn't achieved the way in which it was originally specified. So what we are delivering, the output of our project, the product that we produce, it needs to be fit for purpose. And when we say fit for purpose, we are really referring to the quality attributes of the project and how we're going to judge that quality. How do we make sure that product is fit for purpose? What sort of quality standards and quality testing techniques are going to be used so that we can ensure that when we hand a product over to a customer or into business as usual, that product is actually accepted. Now, the next performance target that we're going to look at is scope. All right. Now, scope, really, if we had to use a question here, we could say, what will this project deliver? There must be agreement on the project scope. Otherwise, the various parties that are involved may make different assumptions about what is included or what is actually excluded in the project. So we need to know everything that is actually included in the project. Now, the project management team should not deliver beyond the scope, as this is a common source of delays that happen in projects, overspend that happens in projects, and of course, uncontrolled change, which we sometimes refer to scope creep, which can have quite a detrimental effect on a project and cause project failure. Now, the next area or performance target that we're going to look at is sustainability. Now, all projects have an impact on the environment in which they take place, and the project management team needs to know the sustainability performance targets for the project work and for the products required of the project. So it's very, very important that we do have a focus on that. We can impact the environment quite greatly, as humanity does, I suppose. Next up will be risk. Now, all projects involve risk, but exactly how much risk is the business prepared to take? Without a shared understanding of the business's risk appetite, the project management team may be too risk averse, or perhaps they may take more risks than the business is actually prepared to accept. So priorities can be established by agreeing on the project's performance targets. For example, an urgent project may place more importance on time, and performance targets perhaps maybe more so than they would put emphasis on the costs. So PRINCE2 helps with setting such priorities by allowing a range to be specified for each performance target in the form of tolerances. So we'd have tolerances set for each one of these performance targets so that we know where we can go to and how much leeway we have before we have to sort of shut it off. But we will go into what tolerance is in a lot more detail in one of our other webinars that we're going to be doing, and quite likely when we look at the PRINCE2 principle of managing by exception, tolerance connects in quite well with that. Now, some performance targets may have a narrow tolerance, yet others may have a broader tolerance. The agreement of performance targets and their tolerances is a prerequisite for exploring options and determining our actual project approach in the beginning of the project. And all 7 project performance targets and their tolerances are used throughout PRINCE2's method as the basis for control. Now, I'd like to thank you for joining me today on this webinar. We are going to be doing some more in the near future, and it would be great to have you join us and have a look at one of those webinars. So we're going to be doing a whole series from ITonlinelearning. So please do join me for the next webinar, and thank you so much for joining today. Bye for now.